dudes and dudettes, thanks for tuning into this episode of the Be Kind and Rewind podcast. A podcast chock full of everything that is nostalgic about the 80s, 90s, and more. This episode, we were going to talk to one of our celebrity guests, John Marshall Jones, but we had to reschedule last minute, so next week, stay tuned, we'll have that episode up. So today, you're going to be treated with a nostalgic extravaganza with some QA mailbag and a little podcast update as well. So just kind of getting into things in regards to the updates. As you probably heard on the last few podcasts, I've joined the Poop Culture Network at poopculture.com with a few other podcasts where different podcasts are released each day, 7 days a week. So I was kindly invited into the group from the host of the Poop Culture podcast, Mark James. So thank you, Mark, and the crew and everyone a part of the PCEU. Appreciate it. It's been quite the ride so far, and I'm enjoying every second of it, so thank you. But more about the PCEU is each podcast covers their own genre, topics, and shenanigans. So if not every episode or not every show is your bag, there's going to be one out there for you. So go check it out. The Be Kind and Rewind podcast, it's actually going to be released every Thursday morning for your morning commutes to school, work, or if you're just in your room sobbing uncontrollably. Anything works. So go check out the website with the Pop Culture Web Podcast, the blogs, news, and merchandise as well at poopculture.com. The podcast is pretty much going strong. Other than that, just seen a nice little boost since joining the network. So seeing that on Twitter and the Facebook and even on iTunes. I think I just called it the Facebook, which my dad does that. So I'm now officially turning into my dad. But no, on Facebook, Twitter, and also on iTunes as well, seeing an uptick on everything. So it's been nice to see that, and I really enjoy the time so far. So thank you guys for having me join the PCEU. But other things that are coming up for the podcast as well, on top of joining the PCEU network, we have some other guests coming up. We've had our string of 90s or nostalgic topics, but now we're getting back into interviewing some of our celebrity guests. So like I was just telling you, we had John Marshall Jones lined up. We were in the process of having him come on, but we're working on that. We're going to get that on for next week, so just stay tuned for that. But if you don't remember John Marshall Jones, he's from Smart Guy, White Men Can't Jump, Heart of Dixie, Con Air, and he's just one of those actors. He's been in so many things it'd take forever to list off. But if you're 30 years or older, you're probably going to remember him as the Bunyan Challenge pickup basketball player in White Men Can't Jump with Woody Harrelson and Wesley Snipes. In a certain scene early on in the movie, like I said, if you remember it, it's pretty classic. Something I do. I say every once in a while on the basketball court, and it usually goes over everybody's head. So I'll keep using it until somebody gets it one of these days. But White Men Can't Jump was basically a movie about hustling people out of their life savings, then becoming their best friend. That's basically the bottom line of it. With Woody Harrelson and Wesley Snipes. I actually convinced a teacher in high school one time that my name was Sidney Dean. And it actually worked for like 5 months. I can't believe it actually worked, but it did. Until he actually kind of, I don't know why it took him 5 months, but I finally looked it up in the books. And yeah, your name's not Sidney. Yeah, I figured you would figure that out a long time ago. But Sidney Dean, classic character. But you can also see him as Floyd Henderson, father of the boy genius TJ, in the Disney Channel's Smart Guy. I definitely remember watching this show a ton on the Disney Channel. It was kind of an after-school thing, or even later in the day, because, of course, people who listen to the podcast, I always reference in high school. My girlfriend, we always watched, at the time, we always watched Disney Channel shows. So sometimes she'd fall asleep, I watched some Smart Guy, or I just played Tiger Woods 2003 on the PS2, which dates me for sure, but that's exactly what happened. So Smart Guy, definitely an awesome show. I remember that fell in the line. It was like Sister, that Smart Guy, that kind of lineup of shows. I definitely enjoyed watching those in the afternoon, and the lineups that Disney Channel had back in the day. So he'll be on the podcast, so we'll be excited to have him get on. The next guest that we have lined up, I'm over the top excited for. Not that I'm not excited for John, but I'm definitely excited for the next guest. We just confirmed when she'll be on, but she'll be coming up next upcoming episode. So any and all 90s kids will remember from our favorite camp of Camp Anawana. So we have the honor of Venus DeMilo Thomas, aka Telly, from Nickelodeon's Salute Your Shorts, joining the podcast on an upcoming episode very soon. She was also in, many other shows. She was like in Sister, Family Matters. She made her appearance as a Smart Guy, Bold and the Beautiful, and recently she's been in The Story Love. It was a short film that's coming out, or it's just come out, so we're going to be talking to her about that. But it's going to be a pretty nostalgic podcast for me in that regard, because I still to this day watch a ton of Salute Your Shorts. So I'm going to have some questions like, was Bobby Butnick's mullet, was it why did it get an executive production credit? Or did Dr. Khan ever leave the camp speaker on while peeing? Those are the important questions that I want to ask here, but we'll get to some other things as well. So I'm definitely pumped to have Venus on. So she's been really awesome so far in regards to promoting stuff and being super hands-on with getting things scheduled. So I'm excited to have her on. Then we have our third guy lined up for the next guest after her. We got Sean Whalen. And the name may not be familiar, but if you see the guy's face, you're definitely going to remember this guy from probably at least a dozen movies you've seen over the last few years. He's a character actor extraordinaire, like Troy McClure. You'll remember him from the Got Milk commercials from the 90s, as well as parts in like Twister as one of the storm chasing scientists. And he was in That Thing You Do as one of the fans / hecklers. People Under the Stairs as Roach, the prisoner of those crazy demented couples, and so many other roles. Of course, like I said, you could spend hours just going off his IMDb. If you have to scroll more than 4 times with your wheel, the person's got quite a few credits. So Sean definitely falls in that category. He's just one of those actors that you just don't realize how many shows and movies you actually have seen him in until you start paying attention to his IMDb. Then it starts to click with all the actors he's played or the characters he's played. So definitely excited for all 3, all lined up the next few episodes. So hope you guys are excited as well. Stay tuned for all those upcoming episodes over the next few weeks. But moving on, we actually, for the PCEU, we have a sponsor this week from Nerd Roast Coffee. So what happens when software developers, designers, and other nerds, quote unquote, come together to create the perfect coffee? You get Nerd Roast Coffee. Located in the city of brotherly love out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where they ship their simple, delicious coffee that has no artificial flavors, coloring, or preservatives to your front door. So, you can choose from the pop culture themed roasts like the Game of Thrones Coffee is Coming, or the Star Wars Java the Hutt. They have Star Trek Bean Me Up Scotty, and Batman the Dark Roast. So, I think I'm gonna have to go for the Dark Roast or Java the Hutt, one of the two. For 20% off your order, go to the website at nerdroast.com and use the promo code PCEU for your discount. So drink well and prosper. So now, we're going to move on to the other part of the podcast today, was some mailbag questions. We got a couple. We put out a last minute tweet, so we got a couple replies out. So we're going to answer those and see how this nostalgic questions and mailbag goes here. So first one's going to be from my good friend Bobby from That's So 90s podcast, a friend of the show, so you should go check out his podcast as well. His question was, which classic Nickelodeon game would you want to be a contestant on? That's a tough one, because there are so many classic 90s Nickelodeon games that, of course, as a kid watching them, you're screaming at the TV. You're just envisioning yourself in those kids' shoes, and especially the ones, Legends of the Hidden Temple, when they couldn't get that monkey put together at the end. Your mind's almost exploding. So many shows that I would be on, but the one that always gets to me that I would definitely go above and beyond to be on would be Wild and Crazy Kids, because that intro, of course, that's probably the most sweet rockin' intro that Nickelodeon could come up with, and their creative competitions they had, because they always use awesome props for the games. Like I remember they had the tennis court size battleship game. They were on the beach. They were doing the exploding monster truck races. Usually in the water, they do like the water bumper boat races and stuff like that. So creative, and every time. And I remember reading the book Slimed, which is a Nickelodeon book that goes back all the way from like Nickelodeon in the 80s all the way up until late 90s. And they talked about the Wild and Crazy Kids, the games, and how they came up with those games. Basically, just be the production people, people in their early to mid 20s. And they would have a huge party, get drunk and probably smoke a little of that devil's lettuce. And they'd come up with these games. And then, the next day or a few days later, they'd be setting it up. And that's what we would see on the next episode of Wild and Crazy Kids. So some of the times when you think, how the hell did they come up with it? Well, now you know. They got drunk and high, and that's how they came up with the games for Wild and Crazy Kids. Which, knowing that to this day, makes me want to be on it even more. So Wild and Crazy Kids is the one for me in regards to when it comes to the old school Nickelodeon games. So thanks, Bobby. Appreciate that. Next question is from the Boondoggle at BoondogleCast, a honored member of the PCEU Fellowship. So go check them out as well. His question was, would you rather have every movie star Steve Buscemi or every song be contemporary salsa? Wow. That one melted my brain when I first read it, trust me. It's tough because it's hard to deny the majesty that is Steve Buscemi's Beady Full Moons, but I also enjoy fine salsa tune, but I'm not sure if I can listen to that while at like a funeral or every song on every playlist for infinity. But I think I could take Steve Buscemi starring in every movie because at least I get the variety of other actors being in the movie instead of just, if it was just like all Steves, I think I might go salsa. But if it's just Steve starring, and only if he's Steve Crazy Eyes character from Mr. Deeds in every movie, then I would choose Steve Buscemi as starring in every movie. That's just my go-to. I those who disagree can definitely ring in, but salsa, it's great, but man, I just think your legs, think of your feet. You're gonna want to dance all the time if you hear that. Even just sitting down or sleeping, you're gonna be moving your shoulders. So yeah, I think Steve wins out on that one. So thanks, Moondoggle. I appreciate it. Everyone, again, go check out their podcast. And the next question, last one we're gonna take for today, since we're gonna keep this one a little short today, is Lint Traps at Soggy Bottoms. What game console and game did you play most growing up? Well, I was fortunate enough. I didn't own the NES because my cousin Xavier did, so I was basically over there every day playing that. So I didn't need to own it because I just go right on over there. Eventually, back in like 1992, I remember that Christmas, my parents got me the Super Nintendo, which I basically had the same reaction as that kid who had the N64, that viral video. He just going crazy, just shaking that box. That was me. I was definitely doing that. No camera, but that was me basically. And back in '92, and I just remember, the original game, Super Mario World, F-Zero, the racing game that came with the console. Definitely rocked that out. So I just remember being so pumped that I almost threw up too. So I think that delayed me getting the game going that morning because their parents were worried that I was gonna lose my breakfast already. But I think I played almost every NES Super Nintendo game because I lived down the street from this grocery store, Dillon's, that had a rental store inside of it. So that made it easy for a kid like me to just shoot on down the street, go find a game, go bother those people about renting a game for the third time that day or within 2 days, or asking if they're done with that Batman Returns movie poster so I can take it home. Stuff like that. So I definitely rolled through my fair share of Super Nintendo games. But I think the ones that I end up playing the most and eventually owned was the original Turtles in Time and Aladdin, which I know Turtles in Time is on pretty much everybody's top 5 list, of course, in there somewhere. Aladdin doesn't really trickle in there. I think that's more just because the Aladdin game was because of the carpet ride level. That one was just like, for me at the time, my ultimate fantasy was I loved Aladdin and I wanted to have a carpet ride somehow, some way, and that was the only way I could live my fantasy, I guess. So that level was probably one of the hardest levels I've played on any game, but the satisfaction of beating that game was so good. So I enjoyed Aladdin. Turtles in Time, of course, was awesome because of the multiplayer. So I'd always take it over to my friend's house. We'd play 2 of us, 3 of us if we could, or even 4. If you're lucky enough to have the 4-player, you could rock that out with all 4 turtles. And of course, they incorporated characters from the cartoon and the movies like Bebop and Rocksteady, but you also had Toka and Razor. So the confusion made it even worse. I'm like, well, why do we have Toka and Razor in the second movie, but in Turtles in Time we can have Bebop and Rocksteady? The licensing thing as a kid is just over my head, so you had no idea. You were just confused and angry that you couldn't get Bebop and Rocksteady in the second movie. I'm still upset about that. I still think we should have got Bebop and Rocksteady in the second movie, and they wasted them in this last movie. So yes, I can get in a tangent about that. But Turtles in Time, I still own the original one. I just recently bought the Aladdin ones because, of course, that one's just kind of slipped through the cracks as time went on. So I still enjoy those games to this day. So those are my favorite Super Nintendo and Nintendo games. Or both Super Nintendo games, I guess. And then also I enjoy Aladdin on Sega as well. It's actually pretty cool on that one too. So just moving on, we got one other sponsorship, or I guess ad at this point in time, for the TeePublic store. So do you wear that one shirt from high school that has holes and so thin that you can see your nipples through? Or even that one shirt that you keep saying that you'll eventually fit in that sits in the back of the closet? Because trust me, I had those shirts. So I went to teepublic.com, where you can purchase custom designed t-shirts and merchandise from any and all entertainment genres. Go to teepublic.com and search for the Be Kind and Rewind podcast storefront for cross-reference and cross-themed movie and TV t-shirts. For example, you can go find yourself a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Millennials design with a Daft Punk and Bender smash-up, along with Power Ranger print Purple Ranger design, with others and many more to come. I try to get them up at least once a week, so go ahead and check it out at teepublic.com. So thank you. So thanks everybody for the mailbag questions. I really appreciate that. Those were some interesting ones, to say the least. But I'm excited for this podcast. It's growing. It's been stewing for a little bit, but now starting to get to that boil point. So I'm excited for things to come. I'm excited for things that have been happening. So I want to thank everybody who's listening, everybody who tunes in every week. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. So again, thanks for everyone for tuning into this episode of the Be Kind and Rewind podcast. Please subscribe, like, follow, and rate the podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, and Spreaker. And of course, go to poopculture.com for other podcasts and mine as well. So thanks, and be excellent to each other.